Hi there, good afternoon and welcome to BYJU'S exam prep. We have reached the home stretch of our preparation and we keep bringing to you different topics in multiple sessions so that you are able to revise everything thoroughly, and in case you have any last minute doubts, questions, issues, concerns, you can always then go ahead and bring those to us. So if you have not subscribed to our channel yet, please make sure that you do that straight away. My name is Vikrant. I am your personal coach for all things related to English and communication skills, and today you and I are going to work on para completion. But before I do that, a very happy Diwali, warmest Diwali wishes. Hope you had an amazing yesterday for those of you who were celebrating. And in case you have any question, if there is anything that you want to ask, please go ahead and I'd be right here answering your questions, your concerns, your queries straight away. So, Juhi, you've given around 40 marks, but that was a 1 month before. Juhi, 40 marks would actually be a very healthy number. I doubt if very many people have actually, I think a large majority would not even go ahead and write 40. That's remarkable. Should you give more before exams? Juhi, there are different individuals who work in different ways. I am a very firm believer of writing mocks and actually writing a lot of mocks, but if I share my personal preference with you, I generally do not prefer writing a mock immediately before the exam. So I'd say if I were you, I would probably not be writing any mock after the 20th for sure. I would not really test myself in the last week. But if you do want to write a mock, I think there is no harm in writing another one over the course of the next 2-3 days, and that should work. As far as focus on preparation goes, that is an unceasing effort. That is something that we continue to do right till the last moment. But once again, in the last week or so, you should not be focusing on acquiring new knowledge. You should just be focusing on skills, and you should now shift more towards the mental aspects of your preparation, question selection, handling pressure, all those things. Himanshu, last year para completion first बार आया था. हिमांशु फर्स्ट बार तो नहीं आया था, मगर जो पिछले साल वैरायटी आई थी वो पहली बार आई थी. पैरा कंप्लीशन तो ऑफ कोर्स पहले भी एग्जाम में आ ही चुका है. हाँ, उसका एक वेरिएंट पहली बार लास्ट ईयर आया, and that in fact that is the variant that we plan to work on or focus on today. And until you go ahead and share more things with me, ask more things with me, this Juhi ties up very nicely with what you've basically asked. So show up, and after a while the muse shows up too, where the muse is basically the inspiration, the motivation. All that we can do is sit and work every day, no matter what, and eventually everything else falls into the place. Then Muskan, odd one out. हाँ जी मुस्कान, पिछली बार पैराग्राफ odd one out नहीं आया था. So basically क्या हो रहा था पिछले 5 साल में, until 2021 CAT, we had 2 questions of odd one out. These 2 questions of odd one out got replaced by para completion in CAT 22. But frankly speaking, I think at the end of the day, you notice the fundamental focus is still on paragraphs. No matter which question variety they go on to create, at the end of the day, they have made it abundantly clear, and by they I mean the selection committee at the IIM, they made it abundantly clear that they want you to know the paragraphs really very well, which basically tells you that they are looking for people whose composition skills are good, people who can write well. Okay, and that's what I generally emphasize that we focus on. But this close to the exam, of course, the focus shifts more on techniques. So let's see. So once again, what is para completion? Para completion is a question type where we are given a paragraph with a sentence missing from it. There is a particular variety that was asked to us last year, which is the focus of this particular session. So if I define it in those terms, then this is what I tell you. So it is a question that gives us a sentence that is lost. So there was this innocent, naive sentence that belonged to a paragraph. One fine day it wandered off and got separated from the rest of its family. Your job is to ensure that you bring it back to its family and put it at the right place within that particular paragraph. So in less fancier way, you given a sentence, you given a paragraph. That paragraph has 4 likely locations for that sentence. You need to determine the best location out of those 4 for that particular sentence, and your approach is going to resemble significantly the approach that you would follow in Parajumbles. But then the step 1, read the paragraph, figure out the theme of the paragraph, if possible summarize it in your own words so that you know what the theme is all about. Then step 2, look at the supporting detail. Now that you know the subject matter, now that you know the theme, look at the supporting detail provided in the paragraph and how the author has chosen to develop it. So there are different types of paragraphs. Remember, there are narrative paragraphs, descriptive paragraphs, opinionated or argumentative paragraph, compare and contrast paragraphs. You read it and you get to know what the author is doing with different ideas within that paragraph. So following this flow of ideas generally unlocks the answer for us, and whatever doubt, whatever issue, whatever question that remains in our mind, that can always be solved by using the techniques that you have learned in Parajumble. Remember those word-based clues, those idea-based clues. So the lost sentence will also have some clues. Every blank has a sentence before or after, or maybe both, and then those sentences have some clues. You just need to make sure that you harmonize all those clues and put it at the right place. So for example, let's go ahead and work on this first question. There you go. Just a tiny little smallish question. What do you think should our answer be? Go ahead and tell me. Okay. So let us see. So soon an English woman joined us and began to talk about her daughter studying philosophy at university. She's a deep thinker, the woman said. After 5 minutes they were gone. They were scoffing packets of crisps and stabbing at their smartphone. Now if I look at this, I would say that this is a narrative paragraph. In fact, no, narrative paragraph that just describes a slice of the author's life. It just tells you what happened one particular afternoon. Now we are picking up 2, we are picking up 3, and that's fine. So okay, so the blank right before 2 says she's a deep thinker, the woman said, and then you're putting in the lost sentence. The people surrounding me, mainly workers from nearby financial firms, were on their lunch breaks. Okay. After 5 minutes, they were gone. Now, if you use this they, if you put the lost sentence at after blank 2, the they will refer to these workers, right? They were scoffing packets of crisps and stabbing at their smartphones. But now, hey, you have said that they were, after 5 minutes, they were gone. So if they're gone, why are you describing them now? They were scoffing packets of crisps. So the last sentence talks about lunch break. Then you say they were gone. So whatever they were eating, you would talk about it with lunch break. Then you'd say what all they ate, and then you'd say that they left. So lunch break, left, and then you're moving back to their lunch break. That is incoherent. So location 2 does not appear to create a coherent logical stream of sentences for us. Let's try it at 3. So she's a deep thinker. The woman said after 5 minutes they were gone. Now this they will refer to the English woman. Right? But then can it okay. See, she started talking about her daughter. She's a deep thinker, the woman said. So here when you use they, it will refer to the woman plus her daughter. So that can still make sense. And then the people surrounding me, mainly workers, were on lunch break. They were scoffing packets of crisps, stabbing at their smartphone. This works. This makes sense. This is still better. And therefore, we would actually go ahead and prefer location 3 over location 2. 2 creates that so this is word that I often use, right? Flow, coherence, etc. So that breaks it. It does not follow that logical sequence in which things would happen in our everyday lives, and therefore in this particular sentence I'd prefer 3 over 3 over 2. So with that, let's dive into our next question. So this is a tiny little warm-up question for you. Here is the next one. What do you think? What would you like? Where would you like to put this sentence in? So once again, let me remind you, the very first thing that you do is you read the paragraph. Don't even bother about the sentence right now. Read the paragraph and figure out what it talks about. Then read the sentence, then come back to every individual location that is given to you and see which one turns out to be the best one. Okay. Sorry. Man, the weather has changed and I stayed out till really late. Okay. In the last sentence, I see this expression. Said elections. So said elections would mean that there are some elections that have been mentioned before, right? So let's look at, so if I put the lost sentence in location 1, uh, does the preceding sentence talk about certain elections? Karamani states in her book entitled Comparative Politics that democracy does not work without the voluntary and involuntary political participation of citizens. So this can definitely correspond to whatever is mentioned in this sentence, but the said elections will find no reference. Okay, let's look at the next one. So however, however requires a contrast. So can I say first and the sentence before however gives the contrast, the opening sentence of the paragraph. Karamani states democracy does not work without political participation of citizens. However, there has been a considerable decline in voter turnout. So citizens are not participating in most liberal democracies. So because we are talking about this voter turnout here, if I put it at 2, it can refer to said elections, the ones that are being referenced here. So 2 is definitely better than 1. Okay, let's move on. Voter, so let's as a result eliminate location 1. Voter turnout has declined by about 10% between the 1950s and the 1990s in 19 different democracies. Now, what is the relationship between, I'm just highlighting these. What is the relationship between these two sentences? The first one says there has been a considerable decline, and the next one talks about the quantum of the decline. It makes it more specific, brings in some more facts. It talks about 50s and 90s and the decline of around 10%. So I think these two should actually go together, because the first one introduces a concept, the second one gives you a detail. If you put the lost sentence here, it says arguably this is due to 2 main factors. This talks about the decline is due to 2 main factors then, but then you talk about a decline, then you say that these are the 2 factors, and then you talk about the quantum of decline. That really will not make much sense. So we would not like to break these 2 sentences. So location 2 is also ruled out. So if I combine these two that talk about the decline, thereafter I can say arguably this is due to 2 main factors, the shift in political activity and the individual citizens' perceived effect in said elections. And thereafter, you notice the urbanization of society has led to the expansion of different political activity. So this talks about the shift. The last sentence talks about the shift in political activity. So the next sentence now elaborates upon the first point mentioned in the last sentence. And I'm sure whatever comes at fourth, it either carries forward this thought or it brings in an idea that supports the second half of the last sentence. And therefore, I think the best place for the last sentence is going to be location 3. So figure out that flow, figure out that coherence, and hopefully they'll turn out to be better. Mridul asks, is it the first class of VARC? Mridul, this is a session which is targeting, which is designed to help aspirants of CAT 23, and the exam is on 26th of November, which is 13 days from now. So to say that this is the first class, I think that's going to be highly unlikely. This is in fact the last leg of a preparation. So I mean, taken people through para completion multiple times in the past, and a lot of other different topics multiple times in the past, loads and loads of preparation. This now is the last stretch. So by no means the first class, possibly the last of para completion. Okay, here you go. Next question, go ahead and tell me what you think. No, no, Mradul, no need for apologies. It's absolutely all right, man. Absolutely okay. Go ahead, look at question 3 and then we'll see. Okay. 2, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so what is this paragraph talking about? Coal. So let's see. 44 years after creating a state monopoly in coal, it is welcome that the government has decided to permit commercial mining of coal, which remains our main source of commercial energy. Okay, so it tells us, it gives us a piece of information that the policy with respect to coal mining has changed and now you can engage in commercial mining. Okay, mining and evacuation without specifying end use would allow specialist coal producers to realize economies of scale and scope and competitively seek custom. Okay, somehow tapers off, but this essentially talks about a benefit of the policy. Then it says, and it came at huge national cost too. So, two things. I see that the first sentence is in present tense. The next one is in future, which talks about the likely benefits of the policy change. And both of these, the first one is positive, the next one is positive. Now, what do I see in the sentence that comes after location 3? I notice that it is in the past tense. I also notice that it is negative. This is a dead giveaway, this is a dead indicator, this is a sure shot indicator that I need to have something here that takes me from that positive to the negative. Without that, suddenly introducing something negative makes no sense. And another thing that I know is that whatever comes at 3 should talk about a negative of the previous policy. Why? Two reasons. Starts with and, ends with TOO2. So needs to talk about one more loss. So let's see. The extant policy. What is extant? Extant is the policy that was in existence of a coal monopoly supplemented with captive mines, whether allocated by auction or not, is hugely inefficient and gives rise to a host of rigidities. So you notice this is negative. So it talks about the current policy which has been changed, the problems with that policy. And now when you say it came at huge national costs to, this it can very easily refer to the extant policy. So unless you put in the lost sentence at location 3, there is no way, absolutely no path to the next negative sentence. There is no way to justify and, there is no way to justify the past tense, there is no way to justify the adverb to, TOO2, and therefore location 3 is where a lost sentence must be placed at. And here comes your next question. Keep thinking, just keep focusing on that flow and hopefully we'll keep getting better. Let us see. Okay, so mostly 2, 1, 3. So I'd agree with 2, and I'll tell you why. Look at the sentence that comes after location 2. It says the most prominent one from the Ottawa Charter proposes the most prominent one. Now you realize one is a pronoun in this case, right? One can be an adjective, one can be a pronoun. So I say, I don't like this chair, I like that one. Then the word one in this case is going to be a pronoun. So the most prominent one, so you need to have a noun before it, and the lost sentence brings in that noun. So there are several recognized definitions of health promotion. The most prominent one of those definitions of health promotion is this. So if I don't put the lost sentence at location 2, I will not have a noun corresponding to this pronoun, and that will make it absurd. And thus 2 is the best answer. Here is your question number 5. Okay, enough time? Oh, Zatitude, man, such a long time. Bhuvan says bad question. Okay, so the correct answer is indeed option 2. I'll tell you why. The lost sentence uses the plant, so you need to mention the plant before, and this sentence mentions the plant, Gallatin fossil plant. So that's reason number 1 why it cannot be at so why the lost sentence cannot be at location 1. Then look at the sentence that comes after 2, that coal ash. See, notice you need to produce coal ash first. You need to produce coal residue first before you actually talk about the ill effects of that coal ash. So अभिराम देख दो ट्राई मारे, देख दोनों में गड़बड़ करा. Moreover, look at the last sentence. Once again, the opening sentence introduces you to a plant. Then you talk about what that plant does, right? Generates electricity plus coal residue. And then you're talking about the ill effects of all that coal residue. So therefore, sentence location 2 by a mile actually. I thought this is going to be an easy question. Okay, here is the next one. Hmm. Hmm. So between 1 and 2, 2 is better, and the reason is if we do not put the lost sentence at location 2, would you be able to have something that corresponds to such? So if you have, so let us see, let's see. Uh, if I just look at this sentence and then see, do I have anything that corresponds to such here? When magma comes close to the surface, it heats groundwater found trapped in porous rock or water running along fractured rock surfaces and falls. Such hydrothermal resources. Okay, this such can actually even refer to this. So I don't need anything at 2 necessarily. So let's rule it out. How about 1? Naturally occurring large areas of hydrothermal resources are called geothermal reservoirs. But then the problem is, this is where geothermal reservoirs come back. So after location 1, the next 2 sentences are talking about hydrothermal resources. They are not bringing in geothermal. If I put the lost sentence at location 1, then I immediately, subsequently, I need to start describing geothermal reservoirs. Then I will not talk about hydrothermal resources. So even 1 is inappropriate. Location 3. So now the 2 sentences that come before location 3, they in a way introduce us to hydrothermal resources. And now we are saying that, okay, there is a specific kind of hydrothermal resource which is called geothermal reservoirs when it is naturally occurring and has large area. And then the sentence after location 3 also talks about different methods of looking for geothermal reservoirs. So I think location 3 is going to be the most appropriate location for that lost sentence. 1 can't work because then the next two sentences should also have talked about geothermal reservoirs. 2 does not work because we already have a reference for such, right? And therefore I think 3, because of the geothermal reservoir connection that comes in the sentence immediately afterwards, makes more sense. So we go with location 3, and here is your next question. Slightly longer, take your time, read it and tell me what you think. So let us check, let us have a look. I hope by now that gave you enough time to think. Tough one, not really. Approach it the way you would approach a parajumble. Look at the sentence that comes immediately after location 2. It has a so. So basically tells you that it is a conclusion, right? Now, if I do not introduce any sentence at location 2, then the sentence right before should be a premise. So let us see if it is a good premise or not. Confession of sins is the public or spoken acknowledgement of either personal or collective guilt seen as a necessary step to receive divine forgiveness. Confession is part of several religious traditions. Okay, so these two are going to be the premises, right? So after this you say, so we find that in the Christian churches confession became a more, and this entire sentence is not talking about anything other than Christian churches. Whereas the right before we are talking about several religious traditions. So why are we specifically moving over to Christian churches? So these cannot act as premises. Which means that now let's try putting the lost sentence at location 2, and it narrows it down. It became especially important in the Catholic and Orthodox faith. So we find that in the Christian churches confession became a more formalized, in which Catholic. So you notice, and thereafter we are talking about Protestants. So I think it has to go to location 2. So I would say lengthy, yes. Tricky, not all that tricky. This essentially unlocked the answer for us. The word so. Just 2 letters of the alphabet, and the answer revealed itself to us. Okay, so that's what I brought for you today. If you liked working with me, don't forget to show that by liking the session as well. And we have this series of CAT 23 crash course happening. Sessions take place at 7 p.m. Do tune in for those as well. And if you want more practice, you can consider joining our test series. And for specific revision, you still have time to unlock a free 3-day trial. You can just use those 3 days to focus on the concepts that are bothering you or challenging you the most, right? And if you do that, this kind of a percentile is what I would wish for you. So that's it from me today. If you want to reach out to me, use any of these places after the class gets over. Until I see you next, stay safe, stay focused, stay in touch. Have a great day ahead, guys. See you soon.